reached into his coat, tossed down more than the woman deserved. And when she grinned with greed, he reached for Ilara's hand, lifting her onto his horse with a gentleness that made her eyes fill with tears. She'd forgotten how to cry. They rode away with the stepmother shouting after them, demanding more, threatening nonsense he didn't bother to hear. The wind whipped through Ilara's hair as the ranch grew larger on the horizon, and Colt didn't turn to look at her until the house disappeared behind them. And when he finally spoke, his voice softened in a way she didn't expect. "You're safe now. No one touches you again." But she didn't know safety. She didn't trust promises. She didn't believe men had kindness left in them. Colt didn't push. He simply rode, steady and silent, carrying her toward a new world she could barely imagine, unaware that this very ride, this very moment would unravel secrets bigger than both of them. Secrets that would expose why he recognized her, why her stepmother feared her, why destiny itself had pulled Colt Maddox toward that porch at the exact moment she needed saving, and why someone else in Dustwind County wanted Ilara gone for good. As the sun dipped and shadows stretched long across the plains, Colt knew he'd just started a fight with people who didn't forgive and never forgot, but for reasons he couldn't yet explain. He would burn the whole West down before letting harm touch the girl he'd just taken home. The ride to Colt's ranch was the quiet before a storm neither of them understood. Because while Ilara tried to steady her trembling hands and convince herself she wasn't dreaming, Colt kept scanning the horizon like a man expecting trouble. A man who already knew someone would come for her, and when they arrived at the sprawling ranch house, big enough to swallow her old home a dozen times over, the ranch hands paused their work, stunned to see the legendary Colt Maddox riding in with a thin, frightened girl who looked like she'd survived a war. And though Ilara expected judgment, whispers, maybe even rejection, the men only tipped their hats and nodded gently at her, as if Colt's act alone had declared her under his protection. Inside the house, warm light and the smell of fresh bread made her eyes sting. She hadn't felt warmth in years, and Colt's sister May, fierce as wildfire and soft as velvet, immediately wrapped Ilara in a shawl and demanded to know who had hurt her, promising justice in words that sounded more dangerous than comforting. But Colt simply said, "She's staying here," in a tone that ended all questions. Days passed, and the ranch slowly taught Ilara what safety felt like. Meals shared without shouting, chores done without fear, nights slept without waking to slamming doors. And yet every sunset she felt guilt clawing at her. Why had Colt helped her? Why had he bought her freedom? Why did he watch the horizon every evening, like a man waiting for enemies? Colt found her sitting alone by the fence line, staring at the stars the way a person stares at a world too big for their pain. He sat beside her and finally told her what she deserved to know, that before her mother died, she had written to him, begging him to watch over her daughter if anything ever happened, sending the letter to the one man she trusted even from a distance, a man she'd met years earlier when he'd helped her during a bandit attack, a man she believed carried honor the way others carried guns. Colt had searched for Ilara back then, but her stepmother had taken her away, moved counties, hidden her, and by the time he tracked them down, the woman was already poisoning Ilara's name to everyone around, calling her cursed, telling neighbors she was trouble, pushing away anyone who might help her. Colt clenched his fists as he spoke, confessing that when he rode past the farmhouse that day and heard her crying, heard the stepmother's rage, he knew fate had finally brought him the chance to fulfill the promise he owed her mother. Ilara felt her world tilt. Her mother had trusted this stranger more than the family she married into, and the realization made her chest ache with both gratitude and grief. But the truth came with a darker edge. Her stepmother had been paid by someone else to keep Ilara isolated, desperate, unseen. Someone who wanted her inheritance, land tied to a water source more valuable than gold in their drought-broken county. Someone who would not let Colt Maddox's interference go unanswered. And sure enough, danger came fast. First in the form of a fire near the barn, then hoofprints circling the ranch at night, then a bullet lodged in the gatepost one morning. Colt kept Elara close, refusing to let fear swallow her again, training her to ride, to read the land, to defend herself, because he knew the only way to protect her was to make her strong. And slowly she rose, not as the frightened girl on a porch, but as the fiery soul she was meant to be. When the final confrontation came, a gang of hired men sent to drag her back or silence her forever. Colt stood in front of her like a wall of steel, but Elara refused to hide behind him. She stepped forward, facing the men who once terrified her, voice steady as she declared her name, her mother's legacy, and her right to live free. The fight was fast, brutal, and unforgettable. Colt fought like a man with something to lose for the first time in years, and Elara, brave beyond the world's expectations, saved him at a crucial moment, grabbing the rifle of a fallen attacker and firing a warning shot that scattered the last of the men into the desert night. When silence finally fell, Colt turned to her, not as her rescuer, but as the girl who had rescued herself. Dustwind County changed that night. Whispers of Elara's courage spread. Her stepmother fled town, and Colt Maddox, once feared for his temper and solitude, became the man the whole territory admired, the man who had stepped into the fire for a girl he barely knew, only to discover she was the missing piece of his destiny. As they stood on the ranch ridge, watching the sunrise wash gold across the land, Elara finally breathed with the freedom she'd never known, and Colt, quietly, like a man praying more than speaking, promised, "No one will ever own you, no one will ever hurt you, not while I'm alive." And she believed him. For the first time in her life, she believed someone completely.